Okay. Hello, I'm Janeille McPhail. I will be interviewing Miss Allison Bethel. We're at the Aloft Hotel in Gainesville, Florida. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for interviewing me on your break. I'm very, very grateful that. Thank you. So, where would you like to start?
Well, tell me a little bit again about your project.
Okay.
And how I can help you.
The project is geared towards the Black experience at UF Law.
Yeah.
So we can talk about why you chose law school, early childhood, if there was a significant thing that happened, or it's just something that you've always been passionate about. Any family members that really encouraged you to do this, why you decided to do UF specifically, and what your experiences were like at UF and how that shaped who you are as an attorney now.
Well, I love UF, and I'm not being paid to say that or anything. But I loved. I'm originally from Chicago, as you know, so the weather was a pleasant change. It was. I also liked Gainesville. I came from a very large city, so kind of the ease of things in a smaller town and a smaller pace was good. I also found it very friendly, quite frankly, back in the day. People, I often say, like, if you ask directions, people would draw you a map. I mean, they were just that helpful. So it was a great place to go to law school. So I went to law school in the early 80s here, and I think, as we were talking before, it was a very different place. There were not that many African American students. There were growing numbers of women, but they were not at all what they are now. And in fact, I remember when I graduated in 1984, I remember one of the things that people were remarking about was the fact that in that year, it was the first year that women were leading all of the major student organizations, like Editor-in-Chief of Law Review, Moot Court, etc. And the numbers and contributions by women have just continued to increase, as has African American students. Even though our numbers were small, there was definitely a feeling of camaraderie, and family. Everybody knew everybody. Yeah, and at some point you would stop by Balsam meetings just to say hey and see a friendly face that was experiencing some of the things that you were. There were very few professors of color. There was, I would say, maybe 3 or 4. Professor Moorhead, Professor Nagin, I don't know if he's still there, Winnie Taylor, who I know is not there. So there were definitely about less than about 4 or 5. And I think really only one in the administration. So I know that, at least I believe that things have improved since then in terms of diversity, and numbers, of the students. But even though we were small, there were just, it was a great feeling, and people, you could tell there were some very talented lawyers or law students who were going to make some great contributions, and they certainly have,
Okay. Was there anything that you were involved in specifically at UF?
Yeah, so for me, a big part of my law school career was moot court. I think I told you that I always knew that I wanted to go into litigation and be in the courtroom. I've always sort of been passionate about helping people, particularly the underdog. Although I've evolved a little in that, and I can be equally passionate for a successful corporation as I can for the underdog. I think I'm more issue-driven, right? So if you're pursuing, the right issue, I can be very passionate about it. I knew I wanted to advocate, and I knew I wanted to be a litigator. So at that time, the trial teams were not as active, quite frankly, as they are now in law school. And moot court was just, was just my thing. It was, I was one of only a handful of son. In fact, I think, again, we maybe had like less than 5 or so on the whole team. I mean, it was really changed. And of course, for me, one of the big things was I was the first African-American person, period, I believe, and certainly the first African-American woman, but I believe, period, to win the Best Oral Advocate Award in the moot court competition. And I remember feeling a tremendous sense of pride for it, but also feeling, a little, sad that was actually the statistic in that time, in 1983, 82, 83, that there had not been
the first, kind of late.
I know that I haven't followed it directly, but I know that people of color have continued to excel on the moot court team, I'm sure, and now I'm so glad they have the mock trial too. I was also involved in balsa. I was. Well, I know I was a dues-paying member. I can't remember. I think I was an officer too. I may have been.
Okay.
But a big initiative that we did during the time that I was here with Balsa was, I don't know if they still have it now, but it was the Balsa Talent Show.
That's a good idea. Yeah. I don't think we didn't do a Balsa last year talent show. I was told that we are bringing back like an alum thing that we normally do next semester, and we will be having the gala, so that's when this will be unveiled. So
terrific. Well, the talent show turned out to be a tremendous success, and I encourage you, as you go around with this project, to ask others about their recollection, of the talent show. Because in my time, it, as I say, it got started and it just grew in my 3 years to be just such a fun event and a successful event for Balsa in terms of generating revenue and just exposure for the organization. And it kind of, I remember vividly, so I did a dramatic reading for the talent show, but we also had some professors come out of the woodwork and sing or play the piano, whatever their talent was, and it was just really fun to see people in this different environment. And actually some of them were quite talented, some of them maybe not so much, but
that's good. That sounds like a really fun event, actually. Okay.
Yeah.
I will tell them. They will hear it. That this is something that we used to do, and maybe they'll bring it back. That's actually really fun. Okay. How did you feel being? Well, you said you liked being in like a small community. Was that like a selling point for choosing U.S. specifically?
No, not, I didn't. I'll be honest, this doesn't sound very intelligent, but, of course, a big selling point for me, being born and raised in Chicago, was the weather in Florida, period, right? So, I was definitely looking for a better climate, and I loved the climate in Gainesville. I definitely was looking for a different experience from what I had in Chicago, both in terms of climate and in terms of just educational experience. I went to Northwestern for undergrad, and Northwestern is a terrific school. It's located like basically in the city. It's like, it's a suburb, but you only cross one street and you're in the city. So it's right on the outskirts. And so it's just a very urban campus, which is very different from Gainesville. I did a dear friend of our family was working at UF at the time and encouraged me to apply. And when honestly, when all of my, options in terms of acceptances and financial aid and all of that was, out on the table in front of me, Florida, looked like the place to be.
Okay, that's a good reason, though. The weather is important, but you really had to weigh your options. So
yes,
that's really good.
Yeah.
Can you remember any of your favorite classes, favorite professors, favorite experiences?
Favorite classes. Well, certainly favorite professors. I don't know if he's still teaching, but I do. Fletcher Baldwin was sort of a legend. When I was there, he taught. I had him for constitutional law. He taught constitutional law, and he taught criminal practice and procedure. And I think first of all, he had just a very sort of dramatic presentation style that was just fun and more lively compared to the dry Socratic or general Socratic method. He was sort of, walk around a lot, and he definitely helped keep your interest. You have to remember back in the day, we didn't have PowerPoints and screens and monitors and video clips and all this stuff that we're able to use today. Just really having an engaging presentation style was a big deal for a prof. He also just really had a way of making the subject matter really kind of come to life through his discussion of, kind of the history and his own practical sort of experience with different cases and stuff. So that was a definite highlight of my career. I think I'll recall. You said classes?
Yeah, classes? Class or professor, anybody that made you feel.
It's. I guess it's funny because when you look back on classes and you say, what was my favorite class? I mean, it's like, well, maybe I like this particular class, but I didn't get an A in it, so I don't know if that was my most favorite class.
I can relate.
I took, I remember I took family law, and I got, a good grade in that, and so in some ways that really sticks out in my mind as being a favorite class, but truthfully, I've never enjoyed family law much. And I remember as I was studying it, being very just sort of dismayed at all of the I don't know how to say it, but stereotypes that are embodied in family law. And you have, this was back in the day, but all of the presumptions and all of this were based on, the woman's traditional role, right? And so it really sort of, in many ways, negated the father's, contributions and abilities and, all of this. And I don't know, just as, I'm a civil rights lawyer now, a lot of it struck me as not being fair and not being accurate. I was raised by my father was very, ahead of his time in the sense that he felt he could do anything as good as my mother could, and he felt that my sister and I could do, anything that we wanted to, notwithstanding the fact that we were women. I didn't love that about family law, but I do have fond memories of my A in family law. So
That's good. That's good. That's good. We'll just family law.
Yeah,
The AIDS stuck.
yeah. I say I just generally enjoyed studying the law, right? I generally enjoy law. So, I mean, it's hard to say that law school was fun. I mean, I don't know anyone really sort of saying that. But I do love, and I loved at the time, just sort of learning about it, learning how to read it, learning how to interpret it, learning how to apply it. I loved it, and I look back now, and I just have such gratitude that I am a lawyer.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I was. I think one of the things, now that I'm able to appreciate that I was not able to appreciate then is, not to the degree, is how much we, as lawyers, are really the protectors of society and rights and the quality of life and our just sort of importance to societal good in addition to making an impact in an individual person's life. I was reading an article recently about a lawyer who, and about a trend in the law kind of sort of initiated by a group of lawyers who are trying to who are bringing cases and trying to develop the notion, the concept that there is a constitutional right to a clean and stable environment. Okay, and so that when the government and that the federal government and to some extent the state government is like a trustee of the environment, and so when they allow harmful things to affect the environment, which affects people, animal habitats, all these different things, when the government allows that they are guilty of violating a fundamental right, and this is. A new concept. It's very novel. Mm-hmm. It is being driven by the concerns of younger generation as well as, professionals in the field looking at issues of climate change and environment and where we're going to be in 30 years and all that stuff, and saying, and basically getting angry that the government have allowed the environment to be in the state that it is, and then, of course, too, not doing enough to rectify it. Mm-hmm. When I look at that, that's such a novel evolution in our law, in our just even our thinking of environment. I just feel very privileged to be part of a profession that does that.
You're making me feel very privileged to be a part of it right now.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm thinking of why I wanted to be a lawyer. It's almost exam time, so I'm more stressed right now, but I think you're really reminding me of why it is that I chose to do this.
Because it definitely, law school is just a blip in your career. It's all-encompassing now, as it should be. You'll get through this, and on the other side of the rainbow, so to speak, it's just an incredible amount of opportunity to change the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm feeling.
Yeah, no, it really and that is another thing too. I guess I've seen. When I was in law school. We, as lawyers of color, truthfully, saw our career options, if I may speak generally, in a more limited way than it is now. Back in the day, lawyers of color historically would work for the government, state, local, or maybe federal, or went into either a solo or small office practice. And typically in the small office practices, they did what I'll call general law, and so we as lawyers of color, honestly, weren't working in areas like tax and healthcare and these more sort of specialized areas. Frankly, for women, litigation was not a career path that we were felt to be suited for as women, because we weren't tough and this and that, and to the extent you did women maybe did more family law, and now I think I look at not only are there new areas of law, but we as lawyers of color feel like that's a realistic path for us too if we want that, right? We're not necessarily limited like we were in the past to these more general types of law, and that's very exciting. So yeah, just you'll get through your exams and you'll be surprised.
I hope so. I hope so. Did you always know that you wanted to be a lawyer?
No, I knew I wanted to sort of run my mouth. I was always getting in trouble for what I was saying, that's for sure.
A good choice then.
Yeah, I was a teenager and my mother was still sort of backhanding me when I said something smart. But no, I think I was, I guess, about a sophomore in college when I sort of, settled on that. I think, I don't know, for me, and I guess it was, sort of a blessing, but I had a family, of parents who sort of said, you can, be and do anything, the sky's the limit. So, early on, I don't know, I had dreams of being, a famous and wealthy, of course, actress. At one point, I thought, I'll be somehow I would earn a fabulous living from being a beauty queen. Somehow I was going to, I don't know, marry a gazillionaire, and all these sorts of, I don't want to call them dreams, but in a way, yeah. And then around sophomore year, I kind of said, well, if not that those won't happen, but if they don't work out quite how you have them planned in your mind, Allison, what would be a good career? And it definitely was being a lawyer. I felt I could use my love of advocacy. I thought I could earn a good living as a lawyer, the opportunity to help people, and I will say that for me, I have evolved over my desire to help people. Has in more recent times has certainly, because I do civil rights work, I do housing work, housing discrimination work. So I'm definitely helping sort of the lonely, the least, and the lost, and vulnerable in our society. But I also have in my career helped, if you will, corporate citizens and business people who were trying to work through a commercial issue. And I think our role in that arena should not be diminished either. And I think as we take a broad sense of as we take a real understanding of our bigger purpose as a lawyer, we can infuse that in our work with corporations, municipalities, and all of this. I mean, what does it really mean to be a good corporate citizen, And if you have been, successful in business, how should you be reflecting that and giving that back? Not only obviously through your corporate donations, but is your business inside diverse, right? I mean, are you having a diverse work staff? Are you looking at diverse vendors? I mean, how are you conducting your business? So, I mean, to me, I think we can make just as much of an impact in that as I can, helping the individual victim of discrimination. It's just a different side of the coin, but we need them both.
We do need them both. We need diversity on all in all places. It's actually a thing that I think England has done, where it's not diverse by color, but it's diverse by now you have to have I think 30% women on your board. Yeah. So, and they show that helps how the governance happens, and so that's something.
And it does make a difference. I can tell you personally. So when I graduated from law school, I guess for the first 10, 12 years, I was with private firms, two private firms. One was about 25 lawyers. The other was 100 plus lawyers.
Okay.
And one of, I was the only black person, one of only a handful of women. And the environment in those places, because it was shaped by white men in very traditional roles, meaning their wives did not work, they were the breadwinner, and this was how the whole culture of the firm was shaped. It was, honestly, a very unsatisfying environment for a woman. And this is still one of the reasons why women tend to not go the distance in these firms, because as your goals as a person, right? As a maybe you want to have a family, maybe. I also saw a rise in men stepping up and saying, "Hey, I want paternity leave.
Yeah.
I want to be home at 6 o'clock and have dinner with my family." So, and I can't do that, number one, firm, if you won't let me, and two, you firm over here won't let my wife. It's that kind of thing. And we can still get our work done, particularly now with remote access and all of this. So, as the profession in that regard has become more diverse with more, men of color, men from different backgrounds, with wives who do work, women, gay people. As all the policies have and the environments have just become so much, better. I remember I had gay friends who were afraid to put a picture on their desk of their, of their partner, for fear of how they would be perceived and ostracized. A dear friend of mine was concerned how her pregnancy was going to affect her advancement in the firm, so she worked her tail off during her pregnancy. And the true story, she was actually even billing as they were wheeling her into the delivery room. And when it all came out, her billings during the year she was pregnant exceeded, what she had done before. And instead of, rewarding her for that, the firm said, "Well, you've been cheating us. If you could do this while why weren't you doing this all along?"
Wow. Yeah.
Why weren't you doing this all along? Yeah. And she's like, "What?" And we're like, "What?"
Yeah, that is. Being a woman is interesting. Yeah.
So we've come. There's. I don't want to say we've cured the problem, and there's still work to do, but it's better.
I'm glad to hear that it's getting better. Do you still keep in contact with your friends, your peers?
From law school, it's a bit. It's actually ebbed and flowed a little bit over the years, because I've been out now 30 plus years. So, I think when you're right out, you and especially if you're in Florida, you come back a little more often, I know I did, in the early times. Then as you get, really very immersed in whatever your career and your family and this and that, you can't always shake loose to either, get with people or come back for reunions or anything like that. And then, like now, I've reached a point in my life and in my career where I have a little more flexibility to spend both in coming back in Gainesville and seeing people that way, as well as just connecting, when I'm in Florida with friends and former classmates in Orlando and all this kind of stuff. It comes a point in your life where when you reach, when you're in Orlando and you call your buddy from law school, they're running their kids to this and that and that and this, and you're doing this and your shift's passing the night. And then there comes a time where those kids are gone, they're in law school, and you call and, yeah, come on by. I got some time, you got some time. And you refresh and renew, so that's good.
That's good.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice that you'd like to give us? Present law students, future law students?
Yeah, I would just say, keep on, being as awesome, as you guys are. I mean, you really are. You're pushing the envelope in so many ways, both, substantively as well as, quality of life issues, and all of which, contribute to the betterment of society. I would say, take some time for the self-care, okay? One thing I see now that we did not have is, it's just sort of, there are the blessings and the curse of technology, I think, and in this very fast-paced world that you've grown up in. But it almost seems to me that there's like no cutoff, right? I mean, assignments are due at midnight.
That's true. Yeah.
I remember when I first started practicing law, the soonest that you could send something to someone was overnight mail. That was the fastest it could get there. And now it's changed exponentially, and so people's expectations, both clients and other lawyers that you're dealing with, people's expectations are that you will respond right away, you'll do it right away, and this just creates a stress, quite frankly, in managing things, and it creates almost a 24/7 work cycle that you really need to guard against. So don't take some time out for self-care, set some boundaries, for yourself. I mean, I will tell clients, and I may need to tell some more than once, that unless it is an emergency, as defined by me, I will not be responding to communications on Sunday at all, and Saturday after a certain day, setting these parameters so that, I need that time to refresh and rejuvenate myself. Okay. It's just way too busy and stressful, and this gets you, physical problems, gets you in problems with the bar, and then you're not able really even to do your best for your client. So take that time out, but keep on rocking it out, girl. You're awesome.
Thank you.
You're
Really?
awesome. No.
You are.
You're good. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.